else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media outlets we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. So already have some such as Ida Beza Gardner chiming in and dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and Robbie Flores here. I know I have often said, and I still stand by when I have said it, that we have a jam-packed show for you today, but it has rarely felt like this. How much we have going on here. Border security and immigration topics, absolutely top of mind here today, as we have a lot of evolving situations going on here, taking over pretty much, if you go to our news partners over there at KFOX14, KFOXTV.com, pretty much taking over a decent chunk of the whole first page there, but we have a lot more going on right in our community here. I know we often break down some of the national impacts, national issues and how they impact us here in the borderland, but we're going to be talking pretty much lock, stock, and barrel all about the things happening right here in the borderland here today. I mean, sure, there are going to be some federal policies, particularly when we start talking about immigration, that are definitely going to have a point to play here, or some of the agencies, CBP, ICE, DHS in general, come to mind here. But all of the things that I'm really planning on addressing here today, all pretty much happening in the borderland. So let's set the table here for you ever so slightly here. Among other things, we do have hundreds more crossing the border and even then being released into downtown El Paso, as continued efforts to bus and even fly people crossing the border and being released from federal custody continue to happen in our area. There are still some very interesting and important hearings going on when it comes to the district attorney's office here in El Paso. Some actual repercussions happening for CBP's social media presences in our area, but also just a whole lot going on when it comes to immigration and border security is pretty well taking over much of my brain space anyway, and I'm sure a lot of what you all are concerned about, including the encampments that have been popping up around downtown El Paso and part of it here. I know we've also often talked about that and being concerned with being in certain downtown areas, but it's never been, at least the way I felt about it, quite like this in our region. Honestly, it's starting to feel like we're getting closer to what was happening in Del Rio about, God, it feels simultaneously like last week and 3 years ago, but I know it was definitely in between those time frames, because these things have continued to move so fast and so much is going on with it. So we'll try to break it down as best we can. And we are going to be visiting with Stephanie Cipher, an investigative reporter with our news partners over there at KFOX14, breaking down some of the other big stories that she's also been doing the investigative work into, including what is going on with the bond, the process, the petitions, all of it involving University Medical Center, aka the El Paso County Hospital District. Technically separate entities, but inextricably linked. Absolutely. That certificate of obligation bond that has been percolating through, and of course the petition in response to it seeking to have it put on the ballot. So changing it from a certificate of obligation bond into a general obligation bond here, which we would vote on. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, so I hope you're lined up with us here. Eric von Holstein-Rathwell also chiming in saying President Trump had the border under control here, and John Browsden mentioning, just like Eagle Pass, Texas here. Yeah, that whole Del Rio, other points essentially east of us along the border, the pictures, if you haven't cracked open a newscast or a webpage from our news partners there, I would highly recommend it, because seeing some of the images, the pictures, the videos of people just effectively, blatantly, in broad daylight crossing the Rio Grande's, if I'm not too mistaken about it, the former La Hacienda, kind of underneath Spur 1966, where it connects with the Border Highway West extension, kind of in that area. Now, of course, there is a border fence there, but we have seen authorities so overwhelmed in our area that with the, and of course, nonprofit organizations here, that it looks like from the video I'm seeing and what we are hearing from them as well. I mean, again, pictures showing dozens within one frame of it here. Again, the crossing the U.S.-Mexico border near downtown El Paso. And it's been happening, not constantly, I'll say that, but happening pretty often here. Again, the policies that are in place and are in really the removal authority happening either under Title 8 or Title 42. Title 42, of course, being that temporary one that was meant for the pandemic era response, has been being used in some cases, according to U.S. Border Patrol, as they were speaking with our news partners over there at KFOX 14, and maybe that some of that is happening, but Title 8 is the rest of it, and that is where it appears that, at the very least, the ones that you can see if you drive around downtown El Paso right now and see the encampments, the literal tents that have begun popping up after apparently being donated after they've had that spate of rains we've been having. Been waking up in the morning and seeing that your driveway is a little bit more wet than you expected your sprinklers to do. We've been having those overnight rains. I've been sleeping straight through them because we have had quite a lot of news, and I've been quite exhausted at nights here, so I'll admit I slept through them. But with all of this happening here, again, the policy of El Paso, not even just governmentally speaking, but essentially of the way El Paso's response has been, and referring to also the nonprofit communities, has been pretty much to, I mean, I'm not trying to use a meme here, but it's the best one I can think of. Take the problem and push it over there. That was really what has been both the nonprofit community's response here, keeping the people moving out of town. I mean, yes, it's more detailed than that. The idea was to connect them with family and resources wherever they may be as they approach their final destination. But more than that, that is even being overwhelmed. I mean, we have heard about dozens of vehicles leaving, not quite sure if we're there by day, but definitely overall. I mean, the last full count I saw was 24, and I am going to be pretty positive, without having seen any exact numbers, that we're probably close to doubling that, if not beyond that now, of the amount of just buses going out of town. But as we're also going to hear from our news partners a little bit later in the hour, there's also being utilized airlines and other forms of transportation as well, and even causing some issues around there with loitering subjects. So we are seeing essentially within modern memory here, at least in terms of when there are actually cameras and things that are available to do it, of quite the overwhelming of local resources at almost all levels due to what is going on. Again, what people crossing the border being processed by Border Patrol or other federal authorities and then released and then on the streets until they can happen here. We're going to delve into that a whole lot more, again, with our news partners over there at KFOX 14. Did have a Stephanie Seifert in the studio a little bit earlier today to talk about these many issues, as well as a whole lot of what is going on with the in-depth. I mean, because even though we could probably do the whole dang show on just this subject here, Maria Coleman, recounting some of her experiences that as well. Yes, while you were out of town, did receive your email. We read a portion of it on air there as well. And so, yeah, I'm sure that you have seen quite an interesting firsthand experience here. I'll just read this right now. Maria Coleman stating over on our Facebook page, I am livid. I travel from El Paso Airport, surrounded in line by illegals. I'm sure that is where I contracted COVID, spreading it to family back east. I have lost all services in my area since COVID. Now the incompetent officials here want to spend our tax dollars on illegals. Where is the plan by Escobar and Samaniego? A lot of questions being asked similar to this here, particularly just how is border security and immigration response being handled at this point here. I know that at least some coming out here, again, referring to what our news partners over at KFOX 14 reporting on, with Congresswoman Veronica Escobar writing a letter on Tuesday, along with Congressman Raul Grijalva from the Arizona 3rd Congressional Districts, to CBP, asking about the agency's recently announced efforts to revise its vehicle pursuit policy. So some response coming about, let's just call them immigration and border security issues in general. But even beyond that, well, I'm going to say that the pursuit policy is pretty important in its own right. That's where we have another way you consider it, some of the bailouts or the car ditching that we have seen has been pointed to be maybe related to some of that policy here. But given the overwhelming nature of the situation we are seeing otherwise, I think there may be some more ever so slightly pressing issues to get to here. So already due for that first break of the hour here right now. I mean, again, we could do it totally on just this subject here, this whole show, but we are going to get into some of the other very pressing issues happening in our area, including what is going on with that $345 approximately $1 million certificate of obligation that the county hospital district has been seeking, better known as UMC, one of the organizations associated with it, of course, here. So we're talking with, again, our news partners there at KFOX 14 coming up here after this break here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments coming on over on the social media here. And a whole lot more there. We'll pop some of that up during the interview here. So stay tuned for that and a whole lot more for Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, comments over Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Phone calls a little bit later in the hour, as we usually do. In any case, we got a lot to come here, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. Includes choice of double stack JBC or crispy chicken BLT with 4-piece nugs, small drink, and fries. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
A construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like,
rewire the hall? They're firing, Paul.
wait, what did I do? Or even,
Install a waterfall. Whose dumb idea was this?
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk. From the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
Savannah RX Pharmacy is a Medicare enrolled pharmacy. And great news if you're a Medicare participant. Visit getyourrapidtest.com now to get up to 8 at-home COVID-19 rapid antigen tests monthly, delivered to you free, including free shipping. This is a 100% valid benefit of Medicare that has only recently been made available. The Federal Medicare COVID-19 Initiative offers Medicare participants free COVID-19 tests every month. Visit getyourrapidtest.com. That's getyourrapidtest.com for your free at-home COVID-19 rapid tests. That's getyourrapidtest.com.
Identity theft shows no sign of slowing down. In fact, more than $14 billion stolen last year. That's a criminal success story and a wake-up call. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, LifeLock will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft, but everyone can save 25% on their first year of protection with promo code BACK at LifeLock.com. LifeLock.com, promo code BACK.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but also find us under similar names, or Andrew J. Polk on other Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. Another very busy news day here in the borderland and the things that affect us here that we'll continue discussing. But joining us now here in studio, we do have Stephania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, joining us as we do most Wednesdays.
Yes, of course. Pleasure to be here as always.
Happy to have you on because we've got some very in-depth stories that are necessary to dig further into and that you have been doing the digging in here. Not that there's ever a lack of importance to the thing you do here, but the intersection of both probably one of the more important stories happening in our area and the stuff you have been digging into is very appropriate in this case here, because you have been doing a lot of reporting previously and more recently as well on UMC, University Medical Center, and that whole county hospital district certificate of obligation bond that has been quite a lot of discussion on, at the very least, this program, and I am sure for a lot of people in the community as well here. So we had talked last week about how your story for that Wednesday was a walkthrough of UMC, going through some of the facilities, some of the things that UMC County Hospital District, etc., is putting forth as what are those priorities. We, of course, have heard on this program a little bit about it before. Those kind of like 5 major areas is the way that you see on the, say the UMC website that they have for this here, and all of the facets of it. So what did you see when you actually got to go through and what they were pointing out?
So they do have, behind the scenes, they do have a monitor that's constantly changing with the rooms that are available, most of which were occupied. It was, pretty busy the day that I went. It was an afternoon. I believe it was a Friday afternoon that I went. I spoke with several doctors who were willing to give me their opinion on the certificates of obligation, and they feel that it's very much necessary and that it's needed. In their opinion, they think that, you can't really put a cost on, someone's health, and that if this is something that's to help the community, they think it's worth it. As far as, the unique services, UMC has always said that they are able to make up for the uncompensated care that they, give, the costs of that with the money that comes in through the unique services that they offer. So they mentioned the electrophysiology lab and wanting to add more of those, catheter lab. I had asked them about the cancer center that they're trying to build, because there are other, I guess, entities, if you will, that are trying to expand on their own cancer facilities here in El Paso. And I basically asked UMC, why are you taking it upon yourself to expand on cancer care when there are other, facilities doing so? And so they said that there aren't facilities that are actually able to conduct cancer surgeries here. They can do treatment, but they can't do cancer surgeries. For that, people have to fly out of town. One of the doctors mentioned, it was an ICU doctor, mentioned how a lot of the patients on his floor are transfers from other parts of New Mexico or even other parts of Texas. And so they feel that it is necessary for them to grow, to have more beds available, just because of the amount of transfers they get, the amount of people with insurance they get, and of course the people they get, without insurance, because that's a commitment that the hospital has, is to provide that uncompensated care.
Right, and then uncompensated care has been quite the issue here in a couple of ways here. On just the general budget here again, when we got the chance to speak with specifically again Ryan Milkey and John Law, the Director of Public Affairs and Chief Strategy Officer, respectively, for UMC here, they mentioned that their UMC has an operating budget of essentially $1.2 billion expected, and that there's about $100 million taxpayer cost for that because of the breakdown of that here. And again, those that website I was mentioning earlier, capacityforcare.com, UMC's outward facing and the county hospital district's outward facing one about this certificate of obligation potential bond here. And those, again, 5 categories I mentioned there: expansion of critical care beds, surgery, capacity care expansion, neighborhood health and urgent care center, children's inpatient surgery and emergency department, and a comprehensive cancer center. And one addendum they made for me as well is that along with the cancer care, they also want to increase burn services and those kind of things here. So kind of not just 5 buckets of services they're looking at changing here, but a lot of more priorities. And specifics within them as well here. So one of the questions that has come up from our audience here is maybe not so much questions, but observations or opinion statements along the lines of, okay, if there's something that either isn't or someone won't provide here locally, then it would make sense in their mind for, say, a public entity, a publicly funded one such as UMC to step in here for it. But again, kind of as you were getting at there, when it's kind of this in between, like, okay, sure, there are more oncology, cancer treatment services coming online in the area. I feel like I've been noticing more myself here. So really, I think a lot of the times it ends up coming down for UMC into that, well, the uncompensated care, the balance of payments there.
Right. So, yeah, we had gotten that question as well from our viewers, and even because one of the projects is also a neighborhood clinic in Central El Paso. And so, if you remember, this isn't the first time that UMC has asked for certificates of obligation. They asked for
Right.
certificates of obligation for the neighborhood clinics that are on the east side and the northeast. And so, I asked UMC why this clinic in Central El Paso wasn't part of those certificates of obligation, and they said that it originally was. However, when COVID hit, I guess they had asked commissioners if they could use the money for that neighborhood clinic in Central El Paso to go towards COVID care, and commissioners approved that. So that's why that central clinic was never built under those certificates of obligation, and why they're trying to build it into this um, proposal now. Yeah, just like I mentioned too, with the oncology, I made mention of that as well. There are other places that are offering cancer care, but they noted, yeah, but they're not performing surgeries. And I think it goes back to their whole concept of we're offering unique services, which is increasing the amount of patients we get because more people with insurance are choosing to go to UMC. And so that's what they're saying, and that's what they claim when you ask them, other places are doing this too. Why do you all want to expand? That's their response.
And then specifically on those previous certificates of obligation here, I know that the estimate on that has essentially what I've been finding is between about 150 and more closer to about $200 million for that previous issuance here, either what was fully issued or what is still on the books. Essentially here, I know we've talked about that previously, about kind of that question mark of what is the status of them, where do they lie, and how is that going to affect this $345 million ask roughly. Here, there's some points of a million that are also at issue here, not to exceed $400 million as part of the proclamation, of course, that was made before County Commissioners Court here. But where do those previously issued certificates of obligation stand? We're able to find a good answer on that.
Well, the hospital definitely does have debt when it comes to certificates of obligation. And so this would only add to the debt that the hospital has. This is something that they say they started proposing or looking into in 2019. So this was before the pandemic. They were going to propose it to Commissioners Court, but they tell me that they were advised that it was not a good time because of the pandemic. People were losing their jobs, people were dying, and it was not the time to propose certificates of obligation, which could potentially increase people's taxes at the time during a pandemic. I know we're still technically during a pandemic, but I think we're talking about when it was, the brunt of the pandemic. And so that's why they've waited, because that's also been a question, is why now? Why did you wait till now if you've known that the need was there since 2019 or before 2019? Because if you'll remember the presentation that they have given, it has numbers and data from before the pandemic. And they've said, this was not brought on by the pandemic. This was a problem that we've had since before the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic highlighted it even more, but this is why we're asking for this expansion.
So then specifically what happened this week, of course, you were at the County Commissioners Court meeting on Monday here that went on for quite some, these are short meetings at best here, but this one definitely stretched on for a while here. And frankly, it didn't really meet either of the expectations, I think, that either we've either discussed previously or that I had personally here about what would happen out of this, because the petitions that we've also had discussion with and some of the organizers on our air here got delivered there. Saw that as of last Friday, actually. Some of the groups, such as the Libre Initiative, posting about the delivery of the boxes and boxes of them here. And so essentially, in a nutshell, the county clerk accepted the petition, saying that it numbers at least 25,000 in the case of one of the petitions. So it doesn't look they were all getting lumped together here, and so it seems like the Libre Initiatives one is the one moving the most forward here, and that's going to take some time here, including the county even talking about hiring additional people to go through it.
Yeah, so a lot happened over the weekend, which obviously affected the meeting on Monday. That meeting was supposed to start at 9:30. It started a little late, but they really didn't finish addressing the item until 4:30. So it was a very long meeting, and part of it was because it was discussed in executive session, and because there were a lot of people signed up for public comment. I will say the majority of the people who signed up for public comment this time around were in favor, of UMC getting these certificates of obligation. There were a couple who were against, including someone from the Libre Initiative, as you mentioned. So on Friday, they submitted a petition with 36,000 signatures. And we learned on Monday from the county clerk that that was not the only petition that was submitted. There were 3 petitions submitted. Two of those 3 did not meet the 25,000 signature threshold, which is the minimum amount of signatures that they would need for it to be valid, basically for them to be able to take it into consideration and actually go through the verification process. And so right now, those petitions are being stored in a vault in the county clerk's management office. They will get assistance from the county elections department, which is under the leadership of Lisa Wise, usually manages, elections. They will be getting help from that department. And so they estimate that one employee will be able to verify at a minimum 200 signatures a day. And so what happened on Monday was that commissioners approved funding of $17,000 to hire 10 temporary employees, just really throughout the rest of the month, so that they can help count or verify these signatures. And basically what they're looking for is that the signature is what they call a wet signature. So it's handwritten by the person who signed it. It's not an electronic signature. They're looking for a name, a printed name next to the signature, a date of birth, or a voter registration number. They're looking for an address, things like that. There's specific criteria that they need to meet in order for a signature to be valid. And really, only 5% of those signatures need to be from registered voters. So that's also something that they have to look for. And they expect the process to take about 2 to 3 weeks, which is why the next time that commissioners are expected to take up this matter is October 3rd. So on October 3rd, they will either know if the petition is valid, in which case it automatically goes on the ballot for voters to decide, or they'll know that the petition is, if it's invalid, then commissioners would still have the opportunity to vote for those certificates of obligation.
Again, that's Stephanie Cipher, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14. Want to find out anything about these stories we've been talking about here as you've been doing all of this reporting here, people can go to kfoxtv.com and click under the KFOX 14 Investigates tab here. I haven't even touched on one you have coming up on today, but we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll be talking more with Stephanie, more about these big in-depth issues and what's to come here, along with some of the other big stories going on in our region right now. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. Topping our news, as hundreds of migrants continue to flow into El Paso, many of them are being bussed out of the city to other parts of the country. And while buses have been a big topic of conversation recently, migrants are also using airplanes to get to their final destination. A spokesman for the El Paso Police Department put out a statement yesterday saying that issues are now surfacing at El Paso International, where more than 100 migrants were loitering, many without the means to travel. Most of the migrants are from Venezuela who've been released from federal custody due to overcrowding at the Border Patrol's Central Processing Center. Dozens have also been camped out in downtown El Paso due to overcrowding at local shelters. A hearing for the alleged Walmart shooter was postponed due to a motion filed by El Paso's district attorney's office requesting that a local judge be removed from the case. The DA alleges that Judge Sam Medrano has personal animus against her. A hearing on the matter is scheduled for next week. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
After an active start to the week, we'll finally see sunnier and drier conditions. We'll see 1 or 2 isolated showers or thunderstorms this evening, followed by clearing skies overnight and temperatures dropping into the lower to middle 60s by early Thursday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about a drier end to the week, plus a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Summer is winding down, but business needs keep ramping up. Check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring solution that helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
During this interruption, let's talk about disruption, emerging new channels, cookieless media. Marketers, are you missing out on one of the most engaged audiences in today's new open web? With Viant's programmatic software Adelphic, stay in tune with digital audio, stream the future on CTV, and level up with in-game so you can see an average 3 times return on ad spend, maybe even on this very program next time. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit ViantNow.com to learn more.
For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and the biggest inventory on in-stock vinyl windows. And now the Window Depot is more than a window store, offering homeowners and contractors a one-stop warehouse full of interior and exterior doors, granite and quartz countertops, in-stock cabinetry, and flooring and tile to finish your project. Their team of professionals will help with everything from pre-kitchen design to custom orders from leading manufacturers like Milgard and Geldwin. Order online or find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
So in life throws you uh-ohs. Just say, better get Mako.
Go to Mako.com for an online estimate today.
This report is sponsored by Mako.
Standing up for what's right, helping out when things go wrong, seeking the truth and speaking our minds, not just making records, but breaking them. Leading the way behind the camera, beyond the runway, and on the silver screen. Not just making our mark, but making a difference. Now that's a job for a Girl Scout. Girl Scouts, preparing girls for a lifetime of leadership.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our many social media pages. Wherever the best place for you is, you're in the right place, whether it be on Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We'll keep getting to those comments and, of course, opening up those calls here a little bit later, as we usually do. But, of course, still joining us here in studio, we do have Estefania Cipher, an investigative reporter with our partners there at KFOX 14.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for sticking around with us, because we've just begun to scratch the surface, talking a lot about the whole UMC El Paso County Hospital District and the Certificate of Obligation bond and many complexities in there. But of course, that has been some of the reporting you have been doing, and people can find those articles up right now over on, again, kfoxtv.com. But you do have a new one coming up this Wednesday, on another very related and very topical set of issues.
Yeah, so you'll remember last month, people were signing a petition to trying to remove the city manager position from City Hall, basically. That's the position that Tommy Gonzalez has had for the past 8 years now. And that petition is trying to move to a more mayor and council type of government, not so much, involving a city manager. And so, with the controversy that has come with that position, not only last month, but just over the past year, I feel like just since the beginning of this year when he was a finalist for a city manager position in Frisco, um, I interviewed him and asked him, can you go down the line and explain what have you done for El Paso in the past 8 years? Council seems to be a little divided when it comes to the city manager. There are some council members who support the position, who say that he has done great things for El Paso, and others who feel that he's getting paid too much and that they don't really see why, and they don't feel that maybe that it merits that. And so I sat down with him and I asked him, about the position, what it entails, what his office does day in and day out, that many times happens behind the scenes, and we're not really sure what happens in that position. What is it that a city manager does, and what has the city manager done in the past 8 years? A lot of the things are noticeable. Maybe we see some buildings, which he says that a lot of the hotels downtown were because he created incentives for investors to renovate these hotels or bring these hotels to downtown El Paso, which in turn bringing in outside dollars helps the community. And other things are done more internally that people don't really notice. Maybe, the fact that he says that 8 years ago when he stepped into office, there wasn't a strategic plan for the city, and that's something that he's implemented. And he kind of goes into detail as to exactly what that means and what type of funding has been added to the city that it didn't exist before he was city manager. And so that's really what the story is about tonight, is really trying to understand what does the city manager do and what has he done over the past 8 years.
And people may remember we had some discussion about a news release that came out from the city that listed essentially, and the start of these conversations, the renewal of the contract, really, when it came out about. And it was about the list of accomplishments, kind of in short, but in a kind of full page document there, listing specifically amounts of money saved, those kind of things here. But you delve into all of that with him here in that story again coming out tonight, right?
Yes, of course. I know exactly which press release you're talking about. It came right after, as you mentioned, all the contract talk. After he was announced a finalist for that city manager position in Frisco. And yeah, we did talk a little bit about that, about exactly what he's done. I know that press release for me personally was a little hard to follow just because a lot of the things were things we didn't know about, and so really getting to sit down with him and understand exactly how he's been able to save money, as he says he has, was very insightful for me. And so I hope that that's something that also helps people understand exactly what it is that is going on at City Hall.
Again, if you want to see that story coming out tonight, KFOX 14 News at 9. And of course, you'll find the web story over there on, again, kfoxtv.com. Again, joining us in studio right now here is Stephania Seifert, investigative reporter with our partners there at KFOX 14. And so, of course, the city's efforts have been very much under both reporting nationally and even internationally, and a lot of local scrutiny and concern, particularly when it comes to things such as the local migrant response here. We've been seeing a lot of efforts there. Again, we've even had some interviews that we aired this week with a part of the city manager, Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino, specifically with the Office of Emergency Management here in El Paso. But this problem, what has been going on with whatever is going on with immigration, with now releases of those that have been processed through federal authorities awaiting future immigration court dates, being released onto the streets of El Paso, dozens of buses now coming out of the area, and how many per day is almost a little bit of a question mark, but it's a lot. And this continues happening, and this response continues ramping up here. So y'all have been doing a lot of reporting on this whole situation in a lot of different parts here, because there's many facets to this whole story.
Yes, and it seems as if it's changing every day. We're getting new information every day, and so we're starting to be able to piece together exactly what is going on, because I mean, we've seen migrants being dropped off in the past, but the way that this has been handled has been a little unprecedented. And I think that's why we've, been going to the city, to the county, Office of Emergency Management, to CBP, asking, who is coordinating all of this? What is happening? How long is this expected to last? And many times, a lot of our questions are still to this day unanswered, as far as how exactly this is supposed to play out in the next couple of weeks. I mean, tomorrow or today, I guess tomorrow marks a week since we started seeing migrants sleeping in downtown El Paso. And, we had rain. Was it yesterday, 2 nights ago? We saw tents go
A
up.
lot of recent nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just been a lot of different developments. I know one of our reporters, Jonathan, focused on, are there bathrooms that are being provided for, these migrants? They're living on the sidewalk. So, like, what resources are being provided for them? We know a lot of people are taking it upon themselves to go donate clothes, to donate food. But I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and we're working on it, where we really are working on trying to get those answers. And a lot of those stories you can find just on the homepage of our website on KFOX TV. Just talking to CBP, exactly, what's happening with them being dropped off. And we've had reporters on the ground for any changes that are happening, just to be able to bring you all that information, because we know that that's obviously a very pressing matter right now. I had mentioned how the commissioners meeting on Monday started late. That was because the county judge mentioned that he was on a call with Washington officials about the migrant situation that's happening here in El Paso. So we're of course expecting this story to continue to develop throughout this week, and possibly throughout the next couple of weeks as well.
And on that donation point, we actually had a call come in right after the show yesterday, asking about that here, because of a lot of organizations being involved in this. Both we have, of course, the government response, the existing kind of nonprofit community response here, and you'll have the story up right now about how the rescue mission of El Paso seeking donations as well. All pretty much any organization that is involved in this will happily accept monetary donations, but for those wanting to drop off supplies, materials, 50-pound bag of rice and of pinto beans from, say, a local wholesale store, that the actual executive director of the rescue mission there, Blake Barrow, mentioned people can do that by going to, again, the actual location there, 221 North Lee Street, if anyone wants to donate to try and help alleviate this in whatever way that it can be done, even if there's a whole lot more questions and response being needed on a larger level.
Right. We had also heard that they were in desperate need of donations of shoes. A lot of I think typically when we have seen migrants here in El Paso in the past, they've used this just as I guess like a stepping stone, if you will, to another stopover, if you will, to another city. But in this case, we're seeing a lot of migrants from Venezuela who don't have sponsors, and I think maybe that is why we're seeing them stay a little longer than we haven't seen other migrants stay here in the past. I know you mentioned the rescue mission. I know the Opportunity Center is also helping with some of those. So yeah, there are different organizations that are trying to help. The diocese has put a call to action as well. So this is definitely something that, as I mentioned, we're expecting updates on or about every day.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we haven't talked about this, and I don't see that changing anytime soon here. So we'll keep our eye on it here. But again, we've been joined here in studio right now by Stephanie Cipher, investigative reporter with our partners there at KFOX 14. Again, if people want to get a hold of you with any of the other kind of potential stories or things that feel they need to be looked into, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can go ahead and contact me through social media. You can email me at eyseyffert@kfoxtv.com.
And we'll again post that up over on our links and on the streams here for this story here today. So Stephanie, thank you very much for talking to us about all these stories, all the things going on, and what y'all are working on here today.
No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Here, got to go ahead and take that next break right now. So coming out of this break here, we will go ahead and open up those phone lines. So if you want to get on the line there, add your 2 cents, questions, comments, concerns, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route, exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana, northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small businesses create bold signs to make big impressions. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 10/1. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
The United States had its biggest spike in murders ever recorded last year. That's according to a new report out from the FBI.
Across America, crime has exploded. Police officers killed in the line of duty, 28 in Texas alone. Here's what Beto O'Rourke had to say.
I really love that Black Lives Matters and other protesters have put this front and center to defund police forces.
That's right. Beto O'Rourke stands with groups that support defunding and dismantling the police. But it gets worse. Listen to this from Beto.
The criminal justice system is just part of a larger system rooted in slavery that is alive and well in this country today.
Defund the police, comparing criminal justice to slavery. That's Beto O'Rourke. He is too radical, too dangerous for Texas. And it's why Beto O'Rourke should never be governor of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean, Mike. Gotta go.
Eee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Want to say big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today. Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of commentary coming in during the interview here. Again, thanks to Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFox14. And, we got a lot going on here in this area. If you haven't been paying attention, I need you to start doing so because we have a lot of serious things here. EFR asking over on the YouTube page, where are the feds in helping with this? They're helping them cross the border. Why are they taking care of them with food and such? Why are we left to take care of something we didn't want here? So according at least to last time we spoke with the assistant city manager specifically, or the deputy city manager is the correct way they put their titles forth there. Myra D'Agostino with the Office of Emergency Management here is that the city and the nonprofit communities are dealing with anyone that has crossed the border once they are released by federal officials here. So not aware of anything, and I would be very concerned indeed if there was a direct cross to just being in the country and not even being processed yet, because that is one of the finer points that also was made by, again, DCM, the DeAugustino there, saying that they have legal authorization at a point here, and that they have that temporary authorization assembly, not temporary protective status, which is a completely different legal phrase here. But I think that's what we've heard previously, is that all of these local facilities, whether it be the federal, whether it be local, and whether it be the nonprofit community, facilities are all overwhelmed. So that is part of the reason we are seeing what we are seeing here. And yeah, honestly, we have to go back to about September, so about a year ago, honestly, to see situations that seem to be comparable with this. If you want to talk about what was going on during the incidents, the Haitian crisis that was happening, as those groups of people from an origin point in Haiti initially, if not immediately before that, were crossing en masse near the Del Rio area. You may remember it from that whole horse whipping kerfuffle and thing, that it was fully investigated and had that come out of it. Yeah, that was about a year ago, oddly enough here. So that's not saying exactly those type of incidents happening here, but of this type of activity, of this level of just kind of, I hesitate to say permissive crossing, but the fact that these crossings are happening and there's not much immediate interdiction being seen here, they're often seeking out the officials themselves, the border patrol, CBP, what have you, does not seem to me like that is how this should be handled here. Because seriously, the fact that there's going to just be crossings like this and not levels of control, setup, checkpoints, I don't know. I would just expect maybe a little bit more here. Not that I'm necessarily putting this on local Border Patrol and CBP officials or agents, because we've known for a while now that both, resources, staffing, all of that has been tight at best. So, yeah, and at least one more comment we'll get to here. Maria Coleman saying, what has the city manager accomplished to save money was laying off workers during COVID. He may have saved money, but his action caused the deterioration of many services for citizens. Workers never returned. We continue to be taxed for facilities here. And Kathy Codry mentioning that had a friend come to visit, and while they were waiting there for their luggage, 5 people begged her for cash at the El Paso airport here. Definitely sounds like a different era we used to have. One comment you made there, though, I'm going to take an issue with, saying over 250 million illegals entered already. I know that we're talking about on the point of millions and millions of encounters so far, which again, as a finer point, does not translate directly to individuals, because one person can have multiple encounters, particularly when Title 42 was being the most enforced here. But also that number 250 million would just simply not be possible. I mean, that you're talking about not quite, but pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio between people who have crossed there to the current population of the United States. What are we, like 330 million now? So I think you need to drop a couple of decimal points there, and maybe you'll get a little bit closer to where we're at anywhere in here. And I got the Cody pointing out that no, there weren't any Border Patrol agents at the airport here. So tell you what, I've talked here through this next break, and we got calls on the line. We'll get to more of those here. We're gonna have to get to that top of the hour news break and refresh there. So if you want to get on the line again, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Comments coming in over on the social media if you want to leave those. Otherwise, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this top of the hour news break with a whole lot more discussion about what affects us here in the borderland. So don't go anywhere. Back after this quick break, the top of the hour news.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
Kick off your season with a win at Sun & Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sun & Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We need trades, and we need them now. Even if you owe thousands more than what your vehicle is worth, we want it. So trade today and upgrade today for less.
For a limited time, get 0 APR for 72 months on new 2022 Ram trucks and on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating. Plus, during Jeep Adventure Days, get $4,000 off MSRP on select new Jeep Gladiator Gladiators. Worried about your credit? Forget about it. We've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunlight Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunlight Park Drive or online at sunlightparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The White House is working to avert a national rail strike by the week's end. The first national rail strike in 30 years could start Friday unless a new contract can be hammered out. Talks continue, but the National Association of Manufacturers president Jay Timmons says a strike would take a wrecking to the U.S. economy. Singer R. Kelly is guilty on 6 counts of sexual exploitation and enticement of a minor. The decision came on the second day of deliberations in Chicago and 1 year after he was convicted on charges of federal racketeering and sex trafficking. 3 Iranian nationals are being charged in ransomware attacks. James Dennehy of the FBI says they tried to hack into hundreds of computers nationally and around the world.
Regardless of where they were located, were targets of opportunity for the cyber actors themselves as a way of just making money for personal gain.
In addition, authorities said they would demand and sometimes get a ransom. Some of those targeted included a domestic violence center, a housing authority, and the computer systems of a U.S. township and county. The Brooklyn mother suspected of drowning her 3 young children is now charged with murder. Scott Pringle reports.
Police charged 30-year-old Erin Murdy with 3 counts of murder in connection with the drowning deaths of her 7-year-old, 4-year-old, and 3-month-old. Police found the children's bodies on the Coney Island beach early Monday morning. Murdy was a couple miles away, barefoot and uncooperative at the time with police. A motive is unclear, but authorities are looking into whether postpartum depression played a role.
Scott Pringle reporting. An independent dive team who recovered Kylie Rodney's body in California is suspecting foul play. The lead investigator of the dive team told Fox News that it doesn't add up after Rodney and her car were discovered in a reservoir in Truckee last month. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. John Fetterman will participate in a televised debate next month as a Democratic Senate nominee for Pennsylvania. The state's lieutenant governor has been facing pressure to debate the Republican nominee, Dr. Mehmet Oz. The TV personality has urged Fetterman to debate against him beginning in September, including a joint press conference with Senator Pat Toomey to call on him. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo has filed an ethics complaint against New York's Attorney General. Sarah Lee Kessler has more.
Cuomo is accusing Letitia James of manipulating facts, evidence, and the law. The Attorney General's sexual harassment probe forced the 3-time governor to resign under threat of impeachment. Outside lawyers James hired concluded that Cuomo had sexually harassed 11 women, including 9 state employees, but 5 district attorneys decided not to pursue criminal charges based on the AG's findings. Cuomo is blaming his political downfall on bias by James and on cancel culture.
Science may have found the secret to getting a crying baby to go to sleep. Trey Thomas has the details.
A new study found that the best way is to hold the baby and walk for 5 minutes. Then sit and hold the baby for another 5 to 8 minutes. It seemed to work day or night. The study was published Tuesday in the journal Current Biology.
2 Las Vegas-based podcasts are offering a hefty reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the person who killed an iconic rapper 26 years ago. Tupac Shakur is regarded as one of the most iconic and influential rappers of all time. The Problem Solver Show and the Action Junkies podcast are teaming up to find the person who gunned down the rapper in 1996 on the Las Vegas Strip. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival,
where the biggest stars from all walks of music come together.
September 23rd and 24th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Limited seats are still available at AXS.com or stream it live on the CW app and CWTV.com.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival is connecting all of us.
Brought to you by the CW's new hit series, All American Homecoming. Stream every episode now for free, only on the CW app.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop today and save big. Blindster.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
3, 2, 1. Oh no. Which button am I?
When every second counts, you can't wing it.
Guys, a little help up here?
In a home fire, you may have less than 2 minutes to get out. So make a family home fire escape plan. Then practice home fire drills at least twice a year so everyone knows what to do when they hear. Prepare your family at ready.gov/fire drill. Brought to you by FEMA, the Ad Council, and Make Safe Happen.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And, of course, Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, sponsoring the show here. Find them, of course, at 950 Crockett, not too far from our studios here over on the west side. Again, not too far from Sunland Park Drive and I-10 either. So, again, Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, sponsors of Talk El Paso, and do appreciate their support in our continuing mission to have live local talk radio in the borderland. And I'm just going to make the argument here that it has rarely been more important for us to be talking about the local situations here with all the stuff happening, not even just in our backyard, or the issues that are kind of like crisscrossing through us and affect us here, but the stuff happening here right now. Again, just to recap ever so briefly, a few of the things that are going on in our area right now. We do have that immigration and border security situation straining resources at all levels and all facilities here in our area, whether it comes to the actual border crossings that are happening. Again, some happening, again, not too far from our station here. So if you're ever confused where we are, we're kind of in between Executive Center and UTEP, Sun Bowl Drive. Like if I go and stand on like the right part of back lot here, I can see both Mount Cristo Rey and the statue at the top of it here of Cristo Redentor, as well as the We Build the Wall section of the border wall here. So a lot of this stuff happening not just too far from us right there. So that's one of the things that I have to cast back to essentially what happened on the Eagle Pass, Del Rio, the Haitian situation, and the other crossings happening in those areas previously, and a little bit, almost a year ago at this point. As well as what we got going on with UMC, the County Hospital District, and the vote that has now been postponed on behalf of the El Paso County Commissioners Court for that roughly $345 and change million for that certificate of obligation bond that could end up being a general obligation bond, meaning that you and I would be able to vote on it. Well, anyone within El Paso County essentially would be. I know we got some of you Southern New Mexico and further east region folks here, but we're still going to talk about it here. And by the way, we do have a plan for talking further about elections because we're like 50 some odd days out of that election here. Yeah, it's coming up before we get too far along here. And then we've also got those simmering and kind of bubbling under the surface constantly concerns, petitions, legal challenges going on with the district attorney's office for El Paso. So that is a very long-winded to say, yeah, we got a lot going on here right now. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media. Austin Redfern, Kathy Codry, James Ratcliffe, Robbie Flores, RJ, Monica Cervantes, Maria Kalman. Let's see what else we got here. Flaco Jimenez, I didn't say that already, as well as Barbara Carrasco, John Brazelton. Whole lot of comments going on there. Dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate. We do have Jerry Hart, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, and Ida Beza Gardner. Doesn't mean that you have to like what we're talking about right now. I mean, heck, some of the times I don't like having to talk about the stuff that we have to talk about in this region here, but if you appreciate us being able to do it, drop that like or react if you can over on the Facebook here. And Austin Redfern saying most recently about the immigrants, they're needing basic supplies. The U.S. was already very thinly stretched, deeply worsens an empty shelves quandary here. And I will say there are donations being sought for and accepted by both. Again, two organizations I'm immediately aware of. I mean, they're all accepting monetary donations. Any organization that you've heard of in town that deals with these type of issues are absolutely accepting them. But if you're, we had a call come in a little bit after the show yesterday, as I mentioned, asking where can they donate physical goods, stuff they have on hand kind of thing here. And I know that the Opportunity Center for the Homeless is doing it, as well as, again, the Rescue Mission of El Paso, that one at 221 North Lee Street, kind of in south central El Paso there. And some other comments coming on there as well on a lot of these things here, including allusions to other parts of the country, shall we just say, and how they are dealing with the situation on their streets. I'm not going to totally quote that there, but you can see all the comments for yourselves over on the social media. James Ratcliffe asking a little bit earlier, particularly with Stephanie Seifert. Again, thanks to our guests from previous hours, Stephanie Seifert with our news partners there at KFox14, about the issue and getting information out of the city and the county, asking an interesting way, and I hadn't thought about it this way, ask how many FOIA requests are not answered by the city or the county. It made me start thinking about what it would take to spin up such a FOIA request itself here. I have done a few in my time. That's something I do regularly, particularly not in this capacity as we do it on this show. But they're not simple processes, and they can often end up, I've had it happen at least a couple of times where recommendation had to be sought from by the Secretary of State and the Attorney General for Texas of if certain information could be released, particularly when I had a stack of documents coming up, like if I was standing not quite to my waist when it came down to the San Jacinto Plaza renovation and the whole, awning that was being held up there. Quite the mess of documents that I delved through. You still get cross-eyed thinking about it. So, but to your question there about what it would take to actually find out the hit rate for FOIAs, I think that there might be something either on like the Attorney General or Secretary of State on that. I have to look further for it, because otherwise drawing up a FOIA for FOIAs just sounds meta enough to be intriguing. Maybe we'll have to talk about that further here. But again, if you want to get on the line, we do have those phone lines open as well. Well, full up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Do have some callers waiting patiently on the line there right now. Let's start off with those. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. Right out of the box. It's just been bugging me since yesterday when I called. And I want to augment what I said yesterday. Now, I don't have a direct involvement in this or this business with that poor teacher, that 30-year tenured teacher, Amber, in El Paso. But I do have indirect. I don't understand what you El Pasoans are doing. You are kicking out a qualified English teacher, 14 different ways of Sunday, so qualified, because of some stupid, whatever the heck it is, and nobody's ever been really defined that. So I want to make a recommendation to you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
I suggest that you get every one of those school board people, plus you get representatives from the TEA, plus you get whatever number of those high school students, and you cram them into your what do you call that thing? Your studio, and have at it. And then ask the first question: what did she do wrong? That's what I want to know. That's right out of the box.
So there are several logistical challenges here, and that sure, we don't usually do the wide angle here, but we're going to call this the studio man the size of like a decent sized bedroom here. So getting all of the people you're mentioning here, including even just that classroom on its own, would be quite the logistical challenge here. But beyond that, our news partners over at KFOX 14 do have a little bit more on that. Erica Castillo, of course, anchor over there, article titled, "Was an El Paso Teacher Unfairly Fired?" Actually seeking more commentary on that there, on wanting to see what people have to say about this, because they'll be working on that for a report coming up later this week on the community response to that. So I don't think this issue is done being discussed at the very least, even if the action has been taken. Finer point to be made there. Do not believe high school teachers get tenure. That's primarily the domain of when we get into the collegiate realms, universities and such here, because the idea of there being a tenure usually often comes with responsibilities such as research and providing that thing, which is also something not usually required of your high school teachers.
All right, forget about the tenure part. I'm talking about a qualified teacher. It's bad enough in the United States of America, and I'm not even talking about El Paso or Texas. I'm just talking over the whole United States. And here you've got a qualified teacher, and you're knocking around in a box for the most stupidest reason, because some morons just can't get their heads together. And I'm going to say one more thing. Emma, I think that was her name. Listen, if you don't like those people in tech, you come right over here to the land of enchantment. We will hire you in a heartbeat. You better believe it. And that's all I want to say.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the point of the call. You have a good one there.
All right.
I mean, I think that debating ideas and what comes to it, besides being a fairly central tenet of this show here, I mean, how it then is relating to children, because these are minors, make no mistake here. But even when they're in high school, if we're saying that, well, they can't even know about certain issues, is frankly making the core issue that was at hand there, the idea of, this whole minor attracted person phrase, or pedophiles, those who have actually committed acts that are illegal in our country, and against those who are not able to consent, which is the entire legal theory when it comes down to minors and sexual encounters from between those. I even have some issue with like the whole Romeo and Juliet laws that are on the books in some states, and including Texas. I know that there are rumors, I remember, from high school about how that could work or not. I've never actually looked into them. Never had cause to until we start talking about this kind of an issue here. But even then, it's a little unsavory at best here. But the balancing between the protection of children, the informing of children, because they're going to have to deal with these issues at some point in their life, and leaving them as like, well, you're 18 now, we've never told you about this, but now you got to deal with it, good luck here, is also, we got to admit, not a good policy here. But I'll be very interested to see what, again, from our news partners coming out, they're seeking more community input and response there. So we'll see what comes out of that, because again, very much encouraging robust debate here as we do in most things. We'll get to another phone call here before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call if you want to get on the line, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
Yep, hear you just fine there. What's on your mind?
So the first thing I wanted to talk about was you replayed this interview with the lawyer on Monday about the DA.
Correct.
And maybe he was having issues filing the petition. Sometimes what is necessary to have someone file a petition is legal standing. So someone who would really have good legal standing in a case like that is, let's say someone was supposed to be prosecuted and they weren't, and that same person commits another crime and against another victim, which is common because a lot of these the criminals are repeat offenders. So the person who is the victim of somebody who should have been prosecuted previously would maybe have standing in a case like that. And that is true across all these all these cities across the country, where if you've got no cash bail, and they just did it over in Illinois and everything, and then you are a victim of a perpetrator who, really shouldn't have been out in the first place, then you have legal standing in order to take that to the courts. So that was my first comment there.
Okay, interesting point there, because someone who has, I think I've seen like that as a minor plot point, or like a part of an episode progression on when you get into like your Law and Order or your procedural cop or legal courtroom dramas kind of things here, the idea of that concept. So it's an interesting point you make there. I know that we've got a lot in process here. I mean, we even had a part of the news update there today about what is going on involving some of the cases with the DAs. And again, we have made the offer and still waiting to see if they will take us up on it to speak with the district attorney directly, because we would definitely love to and get to the bottom of some of these and get her response, or at least that from the office here. But failing that, in the meantime, there are a lot of questions that remain about both the functioning of the office right now, the status of some of these hearings, and even now as it has gotten even more complicated, including the district attorney's office filing for the removal of the current presiding judge in the August 3rd case. Yeah, this is complicated best, but to your minor issue, you're bringing up there one specific part of it. That is an interesting one. I wonder if any of those cases currently exist or could possibly be used to file in such a way in this county. I'm not 100% on that, but given the amount of cases that have begun being dismissed here, it does seem like it's an increasing possibility.
Yeah, unfortunately, the victims of future offenses might have to get involved in order to move that forward. My second comment, I think I mentioned at some point before, is that the surges at the border are directly related to the perception in a lot of these countries where the migrants are coming from of whether or not they will be able to get in and whether or not they'll be able to stay. So if a broad perception exists that if they come to the border and cross and get in, then they will stay, then you're going to get more people coming because if they weren't able to come in and they weren't able to stay, then people wouldn't even try because it's not worth trying. So that's why a lot of these surges happen. As soon as the more recent administration came in, the Biden administration came in, the perception was that you would be able to get in and stay, and therefore you get these large surges there. And I was a little bit disturbed by the attitude of 1 week ago. Raul called and was kind of giddy even about some stats on the state of Texas with difficulties related to hospitals, schools, and, you push politically for these overwhelming numbers of people coming in who don't speak the language, haven't assimilated, haven't paid taxes, and we have to take care of all these people, overwhelming our schools and hospital systems. You push for that politically, and then you're giddy that our state has a hard time with it. I think that's pretty disturbing from Raul.
Yeah, anytime that we're talking about the political implications of this are just are in my favor. I've railed more often than not, I feel like, against the idea of short-term political gain versus long-term actual goals, whether it be state, local, county, or society in general here, because the idea that this will disadvantage my opponents, therefore I should do it here, that being the leading guiding force of, unfortunately, I feel like I can point to most national politics here lately as being a facet of that, or being a result of it more accurately. And I'm not going to say that has been doing us any favors in the long run here, which is one of the reasons when we talk about these issues, we try to break down what it actually means here, because sure, we could delve into the talking points, what is being regurgitated by the talking heads all day here. And if someone wants to bring that up, you're more than welcome to. Just know that what we're going to try to do then is cut to the bone, the heart of the issue, and what it actually means, where the rubber really hits the road, what the brass tacks mean for us here. Because, yeah, as much as you may think, the whole Schadenfreude thing, it disadvantages my opponents, it makes someone I don't like look bad, therefore, yay, that is just some very useless reasoning, in my opinion, I got to say.
Yeah, and finally, Frankie called and he reminded me, last week, he was concerned about classified documents that were in Mar-a-Lago, that were in a locked box in a property with Secret Service and security. If those confidential documents would have stayed in that locked room with all that security and the Secret Service, would not be likely that that would get out, that information and those confidential documents would get out. But now that they're in the hands of the FBI, I suspect that at some point those documents will get out. Their information is getting leaked to the press already, the Washington Post. And so now those documents aren't nearly as secure as they were before. So if Frankie was concerned about the confidentiality of those documents, then I think he may be seeing things a little bit in a weird way. But I will agree with Frankie on that. If the context, and you've mentioned this too, if the context of that conversation, that 18-second clip of the teacher isn't actually revealing what she was actually arguing for, then she doesn't deserve to lose her job. But I don't think we as and the public know the full context of that and have the information in order to make a determination on that.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of public pressure on that point here. So I guess I'm not surprised at the action being taken by the El Paso Independent School District Board of Trustees. But again, I'm just going to say I hope I never in my life get judged on a out of context 18-second clip of anything I've ever said, because you're missing so much when that is all you're getting.
All right, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point of the call. You have a good one there. All right, we got to take that next break now. Coming out of this break, we will get to more calls in the line, more comments, more everything we do at this point during the show. So again, if you want to call in, chime in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, and more comments over on the social media as well. So back with all of that after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today. Blindster.com.
Imagine for a moment that this ad was bought autonomously. Welcome to the new open web, where Viant is combining AI and human insight to create autonomous media buying that accelerates your return on ad spend. And using Viant's DSP Adelphic, you can now measure your media offline and online to see the full impact of your media spend, so you can spend more time on podcasts. Viant, built for the new open web. Built for now. Visit ViantNow.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Did you know that about 70% of the heat transfer in your average home is through the ceiling? What that means is no matter what type of air conditioning system you have, insulation will make your home more comfortable. Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing has the ability to install closed cavity insulation, which can dramatically improve the performance of enclosed patios and converted garages. So call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing for a free estimate at 595-4529.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Imagine buying a pair of sneakers and getting a soothing, gentle foot massage like you'd get during a relaxing pedicure just by walking. Skechers' new Massage Fit sneakers. Because Skechers, the comfort technology company, has designed a unique innovation that makes it feel like you're pampering your feet with a gentle massage in every step. The secret is Skechers' new patented wave technology on the sole that gently massages your feet while you're walking around. Find them for men and women at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of 2 people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show, particularly during this portion of the program. We have to have the phone line open there if you want to squeeze in there. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Also, a lot of comments coming in over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most, if not all, of those platforms there, with including Matt Olson, Ion Grimm, Kathy Quodry, RJ, EFR, and more here. One thing Austin read for a little bit earlier. Dropping those likes and reacts, we do appreciate. Ion Grimm, Jerry Hart, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, and Ida Beza Gardner here. 2 points for my own because comment came in right at the end of the last segment there. Taking issue with Frankie here, I can talk about the facts you have concerning the teacher, where you're getting your info and who are you listening to. There are tons of qualified bad teachers in the classrooms. Being qualified to teach doesn't make someone a good teacher. You may regret asking her to come on over. I mean, yeah, similar phrases. I'm not comparing the jobs at all, but the whole phrase about no police officer is better than a bad police officer, that having no one in the position is better than having a bad person in the position. That could seemingly cross-apply to teachers as well. I mean, I think we've all had our share of experiences, unless you were insanely lucky in your education experience of never having to have a bad teacher here. Certainly had my fair share of them, it feels like, but also had the bright lights of those that did take time and consideration, care with it as well. But Ion Grimm also asking, can the state district attorney come in and take over the apparent mess in our local office? I think you're referring to there more the state attorney general, Ken Paxton, currently, was, of course, heading to that election in November here against a Democratic challenger. So that's where I'm going to say it's a little bit murky, at least for me here. I know that as part of the legal filed petition that has been filed within those local district courts on this issue by, again, that attorney that we referenced, the last caller did anyway, Omar Carmona, private defense attorney in our area, that is a part of the filings, I do believe, at least what he mentioned would be a part of them, is going to seeking a removal of her from office and a temporary placement appointed, whether it be the Attorney General for Texas, or maybe more along the lines of, say, the governor doing it. I think that's a question that still needs to be answered, and I don't know if we'll be getting that far in order to see what that would take here. A lot more comments coming in here, but let's go back to those phone lines again. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I have a client who's been in local law enforcement for many years and has dealt with judges, knows a lot of people at the courthouse. And he says that the DA's office has a shortage of attorneys of about a third. It said a lot of attorneys have quit since she took over, and says that about people being released, that they're not releasing murderers or habitual thieves and robbers, more like these DW people, some domestic violence, little assault. Not that any assault is little, but there are bigger ones, and littler ones. A one-third staffing shortage would definitely slow things down for any organization, and especially in the legal field with all the paperwork and the law. Speaking of prosecutors, the United States Department of Justice issued over 30 subpoenas in a week, expanding its January 6th inquiry. And it also seized the phones of two top Trump advisors in a sign that observers say is of an escalating investigation. And the subpoenas seek information on Trump's failed bid to overturn the 2020 election by submitting these alternate slates of fake electors. A lot of those people are now in trouble. I tell you what, people get involved with Trump end up having to hire attorneys. They cost themselves a lot of trouble, all these people, for him. The inquiry is also looking at the assault on the United States Capitol on January 6th by Trump's mob. Again, over 300 of those morons have pleaded guilty. And now they say that they feel that Trump used them, and they feel, abandoned by him. And some of the subpoenas are also seek information on Trump's Save America political fundraising game. They've always said, follow the money. He's a big money guy. His God is Mammon. So they're going to follow the money on him, too. They're going to catch him in a bunch of stuff there. I'm experiencing that schadenfreude for Trump and his co-conspirators over this new news.
I would have no doubt about that fact in my mind here. But again, there's a very serious, among the many other things I could bring up here, but there's a pretty serious, I got to say, logical fallacy in the way you're talking about, particularly with the January 6th progression here, as if it almost seems like you're trying to treat it like a mob case, like a RICO case. Essentially, that it's some kind of racketeering thing, and that by sweeping up the lower guys, you're eventually going to reach the big boss. It's kind of the reasoning it seems like is being put forth when you describe it that way. And I got to say, I don't think that's gonna bear out. Now, yes, there may be other investigations that have been launched in other ways here, but we have been talking about for a while now. When it comes to January 6th and the issues related there, again, it's hard to prove a negative. It's hard to prove that something that like necessarily should happen didn't, or things along those lines here. So by saying that, well, he should have taken action, but he didn't, again, the actual constitutional guidelines, a violation of oath of office is what that keeps coming down to. And what I keep saying on this point here is that the remedy for that, if that were the case, would be impeachment and removal from office. Now, of course, here was the votes happening there, and ultimately he was not convicted and impeached upon that within the, again, congressional proceedings within Congress, both houses, both chambers, of course, here. And so if that is the case, and if that is determined to be actionable or thought to be actionable, it's kind of a moot point because the removal from office has already happened here. So we're going to go ahead and move on from that and get to that next break as we need to here. So, again, you're tuned into Talk El Paso, airing here on News Radio 690 KTSM. If you want to get on the line, of course, we got comments coming in over on the social media. See those for yourself here, as well as that phone line. Again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 News Update. Topping our news, as hundreds of migrants continue to flow into El Paso, many of them are being bussed out of the city to other parts of the country. And while buses have been a big topic of conversation recently, migrants are also using airplanes to get to their final destination. A spokesman for the El Paso Police Department put out a statement yesterday saying that issues are now surfacing at El Paso International, where more than 100 migrants were loitering, many without the means to travel. Most of the migrants are from Venezuela, who've been released from federal custody due to overcrowding at the Border Patrol's Central Processing Center. Dozens have also been camped out in downtown El Paso due to overcrowding at local shelters. A hearing for the alleged Walmart shooter was postponed due to a motion filed by El Paso's district attorney's office requesting that a local judge be removed from the case. The DA alleges that Judge Sam Medrano has personal animus against her. A hearing on the matter is scheduled for next week. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
After an active start to the week, we'll finally see sunnier and drier conditions. We'll see one or two isolated showers or thunderstorms this evening, followed by clearing skies overnight and temperatures dropping into the lower to middle 60s by early Thursday morning. Coming up tonight, we'll talk about a drier end to the week, plus a look at your weekend forecast. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's. Try Wendy's new homestyle French toast sticks today. Wendy's new homestyle French toast sticks are so good, some are saying they're better than their mom's French toast. Perfectly crispy on the outside, perfectly fluffy on the inside. Perfectly perfect in every way. Try Wendy's new homestyle French toast sticks today and see if they're better than your mom's.
Attention, this critical announcement is for anyone who served, lived, or worked at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987. New legislation now gives veterans, residents, employees, and their loved ones the opportunity to receive financial compensation for illnesses caused by toxic water exposure at Camp Lejeune during these years. You may qualify for financial compensation. Don't wait. Call Accident Attorneys of America now to see if you're eligible. There's no cost to you if you don't win. Call 800-292-2746. That's 800-292-2746.
Savannah RX Pharmacy is a Medicare-enrolled pharmacy. And great news if you're a Medicare participant. Visit GetYourRapidTest.com now to get up to 8 at-home COVID-19 rapid antigen tests monthly, delivered to you free, including free shipping. This is a 100% valid benefit of Medicare that has only recently been made available. The Federal Medicare COVID-19 Initiative offers Medicare participants free COVID-19 tests every month. Visit Visit getyourrapidtest.com. That's getyourrapidtest.com for your free at-home COVID-19 rapid tests. That's getyourrapidtest.com.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop today and save big. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I guess I'm often very interested in how some of the things we talk about are received, how they are further discussed here, and in some ways, the short form fiction that comes out of it here. Sean Gardner with an interesting prediction for the year 2032 there, if you want to see it over on our social media there. Let's just say my cloudy crystal ball is cloudier than ever these days, but if that were truly to come true, I'll buy you lunch in those cases here, all that to you here, since we're making lunch bets lately anyway. But some other commentary about commentary certainly going on there, but some other finer points coming up about the situations we are dealing with here in our region. And so we do, of course, have those phone lines open as part of that. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Let's dive right back into it here now. We do have Danny on the west side here with us right now. Danny, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Doing right there.
Listen, folks, I wanted to talk to you about immigration, part of that, and the other part was that I was privileged enough to be invited last Saturday to volunteer over at the Feed El Paso or Hunger for El Paso, a big warehouse that's located over by, I think it's Paseo de las Americas or something like that. Anyway, it's right off the Coral Road, but it's a big, gigantic warehouse. And there they have a program where they feed our seniors and people that need that kind of help. And I was working there and I was filling out boxes, and the boxes that seniors get, they gave maybe once a month or twice a month. It was a can of beans, basic stuff, real basic stuff, canned chicken, canned meat. And I was thinking, and I was talking to the guys, and they said, look, some of our seniors, they get $600, $900 a month, and that's their Social Security. If someone loses their homes because, their partner dies and they can't afford to keep up the house or so they lose their home, and it's a terrible situation here in El Paso. I never knew it was that bad. And then we see people coming over, uninvited, obviously, and we open the doors and we're kind to them. El Paso's always been kind, and we have them living here, and the government pays for their telephone, and they get something like $2,500 a month. And yet we have people here, not only in El Paso, but I imagine all over the state, that are seniors, that are poor, that are not getting fed enough, that some of them don't even qualify for food stamps if they own their own property. I didn't even know that. So, we have to really look at this, and I wish Veronica would really look at the reality here and what our situation is in El Paso. We cannot afford to have all these people here. We cannot afford even some of our own people. And some of the older people that we have here, or even the poorest people in the poor side of town, or all over the place, that cannot afford to even feed themselves. And yet we have people that we've invited here, and we've opened our arms because, that's what our church leaders tells us to do. And yet we have this, and that's my comment. So I just wish we would open our eyes to our own needed our own people that need things. The ones that are poor, the ones that can't even afford gasoline in their car. So that's all I wanted to say to you, and I appreciate you for giving me the ability to say something over talk radio. I think it's so important.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one there.
Thank you so much.
I mean, yeah, the El Paso Fighting Hunger Food Bank is an organization I feel very strongly towards, doing a lot of very important work in our area, and that the resources being provided to them and that they're able to access have been incredibly stretched recently. And so to say that it is anything besides a very challenging situation, maybe other adjectives that you could use here, but I mean, really, if we're not thinking about the use of resources and how we have it going on all the time, so you're like, sure, I get it. We're seeing the resources being spent on this current situation and response here. Think, how could that be better spent here? But the real challenge then is to keep up that response here, because it's often tempting whenever, a crisis has passed to say that, and everything can go back to normal. But that's when the pressure needs to be kept at the most to look at this kind of use of resources. I know veterans often get brought up. Someone said that earlier, I do believe, about hope they get treated as well as that as well. And so it's incumbent upon each of us in those cases to make sure that pressure stays up once we're past the crisis point, because it's so easy to just sit back, relax, and say, well, it's fine now. I'm sure it's fine here. So that's incumbent on us, unfortunately, here. But let's get to at least another call here before we hit that next break. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make a few comments because they're having a commissioners meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock regarding what's happening in our city.
Right.
But just a word to this gentleman that just called regarding Veronica Escobar. Please understand she doesn't care about the community. If she cared about the community, she'd be focused on our safety and welfare rather than let's just get the money to reimburse the city so we can spend it again on more illegal immigrants. So it can just be a vicious cycle. So she doesn't care about the community. We've got to make change. We've got to vote her out. We've got to vote for Irene. And regarding Raul, some people just never learn. He doesn't understand that there is so much venom in D.C. that they are going to find if President Trump has a different colored socks, they're going to find it and charge him for it. Walking across the street with different colored socks. That's how bad things are in D.C. And finally, Lady Justice, I've said it before, in D.C. is not blind. It's totally not blind. And if he would take the time to listen to a gentleman, John Mills, who has been in the government for 35, 40 years, very well qualified. He staffed documents for impeachment and stuff. And he, in his video, stated that Jim Comey and Brennan actually wrote the document, actually typed the document, which started the impeachment, impeachment. They wanted to do that to see if they could stop the inauguration or impeach him after President Trump got in office. You cannot rely on what we're hearing nowadays because the venom goes deep in D.C. But what I wanted to say about tomorrow's meeting is I'm wondering, they're saying they're talking to Mayorkas, they're talking to Escobar, and they're talking to the president. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're talking to a brick wall. What they should be doing is pushing back on what's happening. In July of 22, the Supreme Court told Biden you cannot continue the catch and release, and they're supposed to have a decision December this year. Why isn't the city checking on that and see why is this happening? You're not supposed to be catching them and releasing them. And the second thing that the city should be, the county and the city should be pushing back up is why are they letting in these male Venezuelans? They are supposed to be flown back to Colombia. When did that change? They've been doing that since 2019, like I said yesterday, because Biden was concerned that too many of them were coming to our country. So that's another thing they could be doing. And then my concern is, I think I don't know if it's been over a year ago, we discussed TB at the border. That COVID was being misdiagnosed for tuberculosis. Aren't they concerned about our health and welfare? That's important. You saw this lady on your website. She was fine and now she has COVID and she blames it. And I totally believe her that it was caused by the illegal immigrants. They're not getting vaccinated. And Samaniego told us, let them in, we can vaccinate them. I want to know, are you vaccinating every single one that was in downtown last night? Are you vaccinating those that are coming in today? He said we would vaccinate them. That's an answer. That's a question we need to get answered. There's just so many things. And then another thing, they want to, or I don't know if they've already signed a contract into the $500,000 a month. Have they thought about checking other institutions that the federal government has already paid them billions of dollars? We have the Veda Institute. Think outside the box. We have the Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Center. We have the American Hebrew Academy in North Carolina. All these three organizations have received billions of dollars already to house, feed, and take care of illegal immigrants. Most of them are for unaccompanied minor children. But they can make accommodations for these family units, the mothers with these children that we see on the street. Why aren't they thinking of calling them up and getting other ideas than to jump into a $6 million contract and a $2 million contract to bus these people? Think about organizations that already have money in their pocket and probably have lots of room. And then investigate. I think, I'm not sure, Andrew, you can correct me on this if you have any knowledge. I thought I had read that there are beds available in some Border Patrol facilities that are empty. And I believe I saw them in one of the news channels. And I was stunned that they were empty. And the reason they said they're empty is because they don't want to hold anybody in the facility. So they're letting them out. So that's another thing they need to explore. Is that true? I mean, they need to think more before they spend, again, our tax dollars, waste our tax dollars. They need to explore every avenue. That's my opinion on what our city should be doing, especially since the gentleman was just talking about the poor, the poverty stricken here in our community. What is wrong with these people?
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is complicated here. I'm going to say I haven't seen anything about locally there being empty beds. To your last question there, everything I've been seeing so far has been that the facilities in our local region, so in the El Paso sector for Border Patrol and for CBP, are at capacity, essentially, and in some cases beyond here. So what is possible here, and what has been the circumstance in kind of an inverse situation when the locus of the immigration issues happening at any point in time have not been right in the borderland region. When there were empty beds happening here, there was sometimes flights and busing happening to El Paso to then use our unencumbered facilities here. We want to point to like 2014 and 2016 when that was happening there. So we're kind of in the entirely inverse situation of that right now. So it may be possible. I haven't heard this exactly, but wouldn't be surprised, given that situation, how it worked previously, that there might be CBP dealing and sending some of theirs to other sectors of the border effectively where there is not this current surge being seen. I don't know that for sure, but I have a certain expectation along those lines that might either be possible or might be occurring already. But to your overall point here, yeah, that we're seeing hundreds, if not on the order of low thousands of day, both in terms of those coming into the country and those then being released from custody, pending those future court dates here. I got to go back to what I think I said yesterday, if not a little bit earlier, because this week's already been a blur with all the issues we've been dealing with related to this, that I think a lot of the thinking that is exemplified both by the city and some of the nonprofit organizations is trying to get back to where things were, essentially. I want to refer back to what, again, County Judge Ricardo Samaniego said previously about we're ready for them. He has said that in previous months here. I'm going to assume that statement no longer stands in this case. Now, I haven't heard a specific thing from him. And yes, looking at that county vote happening tomorrow to potentially, reappropriate, reallocate some funds to be more focused on this. But I still get the sense here, and I don't have any particular statement I can point at, but just kind of on the aggregate of all the things that we've either had said on this show by some of our local authorities on this, or in the other statements from our news partners and just around the region, that the idea is let's just try to claw our way back to the status quo. Let's just try to get back where it was, and it'll be fine here, which I'm not sure is a reasonable goal at this point in mind, because this is different than really any other time we've had this set of issues crop up here. So just saying that, let's just get it back where it was and it'll be fine, it doesn't seem reasonable.
Well, Andrew, 1.6 million Venezuelans have left their country. Are they all going to come to the United States? The 1.6 that have fled Venezuela, are they on their way to the United States? Things are never going to be the same again. Thank you, Congressman Escobar.
All right, well,
her ideology, the Biden ideology, is ruining our communities, and I'll say it again, in our country. Thank you, Ms. Escobar. We need to vote her out.
All right. Well,
And Laura Samaniego, thank you.
Thank you much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. I mean, yeah, this issue, there is no definable end to this. I don't even know how we could qualify or begin to expect such a thing. But let me just say, to your final point there before we hit that next break, that if we are going to be seeing anything similar to what happened again year ago, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, those regions and other sectors of the border here, when it was a Haitian population approaching there, the amount of coordination that was happening, even amongst the people seeking to cross the border in those circumstances, was significant. Now, whether that is in place for this Venezuelan situation we're talking about here, I don't have any detailed information I have seen about that, but it'd be reasonable to expect that it's a possibility at the very least here. Okay, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll squeeze in what we can, tell you what we got coming up for you on the show here, and close out the program. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a moment.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Want to say big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster now and save 45% off any order. Just use code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop today. Blindster.com.
On a busy construction site, things can be misinterpreted. Bring in the bulldozer. It can sound a lot like,
building looks mediocre. Designs need a do-over.
or even,
install a roller coaster? Okay.
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, can we actually bring in the bulldozer?
Hey, Mario, Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Imagine buying a pair of sneakers and getting a soothing, gentle foot massage like you'd get during a relaxing pedicure just by walking. Skechers' new Massage Fit sneakers. Because Skechers, the comfort technology company, has designed a unique innovation that makes it feel like you're pampering your feet with a gentle massage in every step. The secret is Skechers' new patented wave technology on the sole that gently massages your feet while you're walking around. Find them for men and women at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
I'll never forget the call that my only son had been killed instantly by a distracted driver on her cell phone. Please hang up and drive.
Heads up, Texas. Using your phone behind the wheel can be deadly. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
That's going to about do it for us here today, because we have covered a lot, and I do mean a lot of ground here today, but we are super out of time here for this show. I want to tell you briefly what we're working on for you for coming days and weeks. Again, a lot more about this immigration situation, the border security issues, all of that, as much as we can here, but more specifically tomorrow, ahead of that vote and ahead of whatever comes next for county commissioners when it comes to the county hospital district, the certificate of obligation bonds. Be talking with the organization that led one of the biggest parts of it, the one that may be accepted there, Libre Initiative, talking with them. So stay tuned for that and a whole lot more. Otherwise, thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in this show. We've got more comments than I was even able to get to here in this couple of hours. So we'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. as we do every Monday through Friday. So in the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for slowing for the accident reported on Gateway East at Airway at the underpass, or take an alternate route. Exit Gateway East, use Trowbridge to Hawkins and Hawkins back to the Gateway. And watch for possible slowing due to police activity reported on Diana, northbound at Hercules. You could use Dyer or Railroad. Either of those are a good northbound alternate. And that's a look at your latest traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Kick off your season with a win at Sun Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sun Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We need trades, and we need them now. Even if you owe thousands more than what your vehicle is worth, we want it. So trade today and upgrade today for less.
For a limited time, get 0 APR for 72 months on new 2022 Ram trucks and on the all-new 2022 full-size Wagoneer SUV with third-row seating. Plus, during Jeep Adventure Days, get $4,000 off MSRP on select new Jeep Gladiators. Worried about your credit? Forget about it. We've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Trade and upgrade for less at Sun Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun at I-10 at Sun Park Drive or online at sunparkdodge.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A Chicago federal jury is convicting disgraced R&B singer R. Kelly on child pornography charges. The jury found Kelly guilty on 3 counts of his indictment, including the sexual exploitation of Jane Doe when she was a minor. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is blocking a Republican request forcing railroad workers to accept nonpartisan panel recommendations to avoid a strike. The resolution would have required railroad workers adopt outlines of a labor deal with the Democrat, arguing railroad companies should start treating workers more fairly. GOP senators said their resolution would help to avoid a rail strike, which would potentially freeze rail travel and freight shipments around